It being 5 p.m., the Lafourche Parish Council meeting on March 23rd, 2021 is hereby called to order. Ms. Carlene, can you please conduct roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones. Here. Mr. Adams is absent. Mr. Grauber. Here. Mr. Melvin. Here. Mr. Wendell.
Here.
Mr. Grauber.
Here.
Chairman Otan.
Here.
Mrs. Chasson. Here. Mr. Lorraine is absent. And President Chasson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carlene. If everyone would please rise, we'll first start off by a moment of silence for our the recent passing of Lafourche Parish Constable, Mr. Dwayne LaBeouf. After the moment of silence, we'll be led an invocation by Mr. Bo Melvin, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Jim Wendell. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. I'd also like to remind anyone wishing to address the council to please fill out one of the blue forms at the door and please bring it up to the council clerk so we can ensure that we recognize you when we do call public wishing to address the council. With that said, we'll jump right into our meeting. Item A, approval of minutes. I entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the March 9th, 2021 regular session. So moved by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, and 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item B, we have none, Ms. Carlene?
No, sir, none.
Item C, do we have any state or federal legislative updates from anyone? We do not. Okay, item D, proclamations. Number 2, proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2021 as Fair Housing Month. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas the 53rd anniversary of the National Fair Housing Law, Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 during the month of April is an occasion for all Americans individually and collectively to rededicate themselves to the principle of freedom for housing discrimination wherever it exists. And whereas the law guarantees for each citizen the critical personal element freely choosing a home, and whereas the Fair Housing Law has been passed by the state of Louisiana, and implementation of laws require positive commitment, involvement, and support from each citizen. And whereas the department and agencies of the parish of Lafourche provide leadership in an effort to make fair housing not just an idea, but an ideal for all citizens. And whereas barriers that diminish the rights and limit options of any citizen to freely choose a home will ultimately diminish the rights and limit the options of all. Now therefore, I, Archie Chasson III, President of Lafourche Parish, do hereby proclaim April 2021 as Fair Housing Month. I don't think anybody's here, Mr. Chairman. These are both this one and the next one are part of the CDBG grants that we do, and just one of the requirements of those grants. So we'll pass it along to those agencies that we actually did these proclamations.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. President, which brings us to item 3, proclamation proclaiming the week of April 5th through the 9th, 2021 as National Community Development Week.
Thank you, sir. The Community Development Block Grant Program has operated since 1974 to provide local governments with resources required to primarily meet the needs of low to moderate income persons. And whereas the Community Development Block Grant Program is among the few remaining federal programs available to address the needs of low to moderate income persons in small cities. And whereas the Community Development Block Grant Program has provided the state of Louisiana with important, flexible assistance to meet the needs of low to moderate income residents of small cities by funding sewer, water, and street improvement projects, economic development projects, and other public involvement projects. And whereas Congress and the nation acknowledge the critical value of the Community Development Block Grant Program and the significant projects that rely on the funds to support it. And whereas the week of April 5th through 9th, 2021 has been reserved in recognition and appreciation for the Community Development Block Grant Program, and now I, therefore, Archie Chasson, President of the Parish of Lafourche, do hereby proclaim April 5th through the 9th, 2021 as National Community Development Week. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 4, Lafourche Parish President Archie III to present a proclamation to Mr. Tyler Legnan and Ms. Symphony Brown in recognition of their election as the Nicholls State University Student Government Association President and Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I got to give credit to Councilman Jones for bringing Tyler and Symphony to our meeting here tonight. SGA and student government associations across the university is a great tool for young leaders to kind of gain their feet as what we do every day in government. And I'm a proud member, or was a proud member, of the SGA at Nicholls during my time there. So we'd like to congratulate Tyler and Symphony on their election as Nicholls State University Student Government President and Vice President.
And certainly congratulations to both Tyler and Symphony. My recollection of SGA is they sponsored the crawfish balls and the concerts and, right?
That's what I remember.
That's what I remember.
That's what I remember.
Oh, different group?
That's true.
Okay.
SBA, student programming.
If you don't mind, just state your name and your address for the record so that we'll collect it on the minutes. Yep. Is the mic on?
Just press the button, Tyler, on the mic.
There we go. Awesome. My name is Tyler Legnan. I live at 5048 North Bayou Black Drive, Gibson, Louisiana. Thank you all so much for the recognition. Whenever I ran for student body president at Nicholls State University, it was very important for me to put emphasis on why it was so important for us to reach out to graduate students. I was a proud undergraduate at Nicholls State University. I graduated in May with a degree in Allied Health Sciences, and I'm now back for an MBA. Whenever you join the SGA, you really get to see the ins and outs of the university and see what services we offer to the students. And we, we really got to see that the graduate community was kind of left out in a lot of things, the decisions that are made at the university, because we are so focused on our undergraduate students. But we have to give recognition to these grad students because our enrollment has increased throughout the pandemic due to our graduate students. So being able to represent not only the student body, but the graduate student population is very humbling, is very exciting, and I'm just very proud to do that. So once again, thank you all for the recognition and allowing me to be here. So
Outstanding. Ms. Symphony, please say a couple of words. If you don't mind, once again, state your name and your address for the record.
Symphony Brown, 1200 Renee Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana. I just want to thank y'all for allowing us to come here, and I had no idea y'all were giving us something, so thank you again. I'm a junior nursing major from Thibodaux, and the reason why I wanted to run for vice president was just to bring awareness to our undergrad students. You know, I have been so heavily involved on campus that, you know, why stop at where I am now? I just want to, you know, broaden my horizon. Campus safety and campus beauty are one of my initiatives. Diversity and inclusion, of course, and then just increasing the student and the administration communication and allowing students to know that they can come to us and we can voice their concerns to the administration and they'll be well taken care of. So again, thank y'all, and a special thank you to my grandpa. Appreciate you.
Outstanding. Thank y'all again.
thank y'all.
Okay, item 5, proclamation and appreciation of Mr. Larry Sandomal for bringing Lafourche Parish Community Action to its standards. Mr. Jones, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Proclamation Parish of Lafourche, whereas on behalf of Councilman Jerry Jones, District 1, Lafourche Parish Council, Lafourche Parish President Archie III, and Lafourche Parish Community Action Advisory Board, we would like to recognize Mr. Larry Sandomal in appreciation for his dedication and hard work by bringing the organization standards assessment from community action from 12% to 100%. And whereas, with the mandate of the state, the CSBG lead agency report the actual organizational standard performance achieved by the Community Action Agency within the state and their annual report with a target of 100%, each standard showed a need for a consultant. And whereas, at the request of the Community Action Advisory Board, Lafourche Parish Council passed a resolution number 20-060, to hire a consultant to work with the Community Action Advisory Board and the Director of Community Action to bring our organization standard to its necessary need. Whereas in a few short months, with the help of Mr. Santamore, the Office of Community Action Organization Standards Assessment was brought from 12% to 100%. Therefore, be it resolved by the Councilman Jerry Jones, District 1, Lafourche Parish Council, and the Lafourche Parish President Archie Chasson, and the Lafourche Parish Advisory Board convened its regular session March 23rd. We do hereby thank Mr. Larry Santamore for his outstanding service to Lafourche Parish. On behalf of Councilman Jerry Jones, District 1, Lafourche Parish Council, and the Lafourche Parish President Archie Chasson III, we do hereby set our signatures and have our costs be affixed to an official seal of Lafourche Parish Council, State of Louisiana, this March 23rd, 2021, Matthews, Louisiana, Archie Chasson, Jerry Jones. Mr. Santamore.
Well, thank you, Councilman Jones, to Mr. President, to members of the council.
Mr. Santamore, if you don't mind, just state your name and your address for our records that's picking up on the mic.
Sure. It's 11 Santamore, 18630 Santa Maria Parkway, Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Thank you.
I want to tell you that
Hold on one second, Mr. Larry. Is the mic?
Okay, great. I'm
Can you
sorry.
hear it now? Yeah, just
Yes.
restate it, your name and
Yes,
address.
it's
Sorry
Larry
about that.
Santamore, 18630 Santa Maria Parkway. I'm with Management and Leadership Group in Baton Rouge, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the recognition. It's wonderful to get something recognized, but I want to tell you that there are others more deserving than myself. There are the people in the Community Action Office who did great work. There are the community partners here in Lafourche, wonderful community partners you have who did great work. And of course, there's that board of directors. You have a community action board that is really engaged. It's led by Ms. Constance Johnson. They did yeoman's work, and they had a very short period of time in which to get an awful lot done in order to meet these standards that you've got to meet in order to keep your funding rolling in. And all of those people did great work, and the kids and the families here in Lafourche are better for the work that has been done. And once again, thank you, but remember that this was a all-hands-on-deck sort of project. So thank you so much.
Sign of a true leader. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Santamore. Just don't leave out of Baton Rouge yet, because I still got your number.
Very good, thank you. Item E, presentations on our updates. We have none other. F, legal advisor report. Will be none. Item G, any engineers and/or architect reports. You have the floor.
Good evening. Heather Klingman, Duplantis Design Group, 315 East Bayou Road. I'm sorry, 314 East Bayou Road. I don't know where the 15 came from. Okay, first couple of projects, hazard mitigation. We're working with FEMA, GOSEP right now. We've sent them a couple of revisions to the scope of work for this to try to get costs in line with what they have, budgeted for the projects. So we're kind of going through everything, looking at what we can add to some projects, and just kind of trying to work with them to get everything in line with budget. So that's for Timberland, parish-wide pump station, and the Layton pump station. So there's a bit more work that, that we want to do maybe on Layton. So we're kind of just looking at maybe shuffling stuff around. But we're talking to GOSEP and FEMA right now about that. Community Center, we're working right now to revise some of the layouts here. What we're looking at, Mitch had sent over kind of a revised layout that would actually take the larger ball fields and put 3 ball fields in it, so that within one larger ball field, you can have 3, one that would be the larger one, and then 2 that would be for, some of the younger, smaller ball fields. It's going to be a little bit more expensive just because you have a little bit more equipment, backstops, that kind of thing. But I think, overall, if we can make that work, that it'll be good for the, for the area. And we're also working on a grant application with Lionel right now that's due the beginning of April. So we're working on putting all that information together. And streetlight permitting, still on here. We don't have anything new going on. The list that's up here is just the last thing that we did, but it's been a while since we've actually done anything new, but just, we still have it on to report if anybody has any questions. And then the library finished construction, substantial completion was granted on February 13th, and the contractor's just working on punch list items. And that's it. Anybody got any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Doesn't look like. Appreciate
All
you
right.
coming to give a report.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other engineers, architects? Last call. Okay, item H, public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items, et cetera. Ms. Carleen.
Mr. James Bradham, if you approach the podium, Mr. Bradham, state your name and address for the record, and please remember you have 3 minutes.
My name is James Bradham, and I live at 268 Church Street, Raceland, Louisiana. I came here to, do I have to keep holding the button down while I
No,
talk?
no, it should be good.
I come here tonight to address an issue that we're all pretty much familiar with. Last time I stood and addressed the council was many years ago on a similar issue with the drugs and the alcohol issues that we were running into in Lafourche Parish. And I've been a resident of Lafourche Parish for the past 50 years of my life. And I just a few years ago, I got into the ministry. And as I further got into the ministry, I started recognizing a lot of things that were happening and going on around in our community. And I took it personal because I lived here. For a lot of times I would hear people say, well, as long as it's not happening in my yard, I'm okay. Well, I stand to differ with that, because if it's happening in my neighbor's yard, then it's happening in my yard. And if it's happening in my community, it's happening in your yard. If it's happening in my parish, then it's happening in my yard. So I took a different stance on it, and I started reaching out. We all have passed in Houma, and we've seen the homeless, and we see them with their signs up, or we see them at a stop sign. But here lately, I want to let y'all know, I don't know if y'all aware, but it has trickled into Lafourche Parish. I have a church right down here on LA1, on the corner of LA1 and St. Anne Street, and I'm not saying anything is wrong with it. I'm saying that it showed up on my doorstep at church. Well, I went to the church to go into the church to do church business, and I had a homeless person sleeping in the breezeway at my church by the front door that I would literally had to walk over them to be able to get in my church. Now, we woke the person up, and we got them some food, and we got them some clothing, we got them some shelter and whatnot. But then I heard that they're facing the same issue down the bayou and further up the bayou, and it's like, okay, what are we doing? I had an opportunity to lead the parish with my family and go and do some preaching in another state. And I said I can't because, see, I was born and raised here. And this is where my heart is. And this is where my family is. And, and you all are my neighbors, and you're my family. And that's how I consider the parish that I grew up in for the past 50 years, that you all are my family. And I come here tonight, and then I heard Proclamation number 5, where they talked about, the community action and to its standards, and congratulations on that recognition, and I will definitely be getting with you on some community action, because I think that that's what we're lacking. We're lacking in the community more action. We got a lot of abandoned buildings and a lot of abandoned houses. Look, I'm just one guy with a very small financial bank account, and I've been writing checks, and I've been putting out a lot of cash to feed the homeless. I gave each one of you all, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mike Grove gives you 3 more minutes, sir.
Okay, I gave each one of y'all a flyer of what our ministry is all about and what we do. Second Harvest has reached out to me and asked me if I would open up a food pantry here in Lafourche Parish, and I said, absolutely. So I hand out over 200 boxes of food the second Saturday of every month right now in Raceland at our church. I'm doing my part, and I'm willing to write out another check as much as I personally, financially can to help out with any issues that we have in our community. All I'm asking for, if there's any programs out there that I can get involved in, I got volunteers. If it's volunteers we're lacking in, I got a team standing by, waiting to jump in this and to help out in any way we can. I don't want any more issues. I don't want any more to see homeless sleeping in breezeways of churches or other places. I don't want to overlook them anymore. I want us to look at the issues that are going on in Lafourche Parish, and I'm not saying that none of y'all are overlooking the issues. I'm saying that for the first time in a very long time that I'm back addressing the council and asking and saying, here I am, put me in. Where can I help? Where can I go, and what can I do? I want to thank y'all for the opportunity that y'all let me have here tonight. And I so much want to get involved in anything that y'all got going on to continue to get our parish to strive and going in the direction that we all wanted to go in. Thank y'all so much for today.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Is that it, Ms. Carlin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. Item I, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. I entertain a motion to open public hearing. So moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Grove. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 6, ordinance providing for a 2021 supplemental appropriation 21-001 within the 2021 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to budget for funds collected from the Drainage District Number 1 to purchase 2 tractors and 2 mowers, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Ms. Delin will move on behalf of the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Grauber. With that said, would anyone from the public like to comment on item number 6? 1 time, 2 time, last call. Anyone from the public? 3 times. Anyone from the council would like to discuss this? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 7, ordinance providing for a 2021 supplemental appropriation 21-007 within the 2021 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, increasing the budget for various projects and deobligating completed projects, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Wendell. Anyone from the public like to comment on item number 7's ordinance? 1 time, 2 time, last call for public comment on item 7. There being none, anyone from the council would like to comment on this one? Nope. Move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 8, ordinance amending ordinance number 6437, which adopted the 2021 operations and maintenance and capital budget for the Lafourche Parish Council, as well as setting the salaries of unclassified employees as provided for by Article 5 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Would anyone from the public like to comment on items 8 ordinance? 1 time, 2 time, 3 times. Anyone from the council? Mr. Wendell, your light's lit. You want to count? No. Okay. There be none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. I'll now entertain a motion to close public hearing. So moved by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Grove. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine And Mr. Adams, item J, proposed ordinances. Mr. Wendell, you have the floor, sir.
Item number 9, proposed ordinance approving a servitude agreement between Brian J. Vegas and Lafourche Parish government in the cutoff area and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and all relevant documents by Mr. Lorraine for administration.
He's absent.
Mr. Jones on behalf of administration. Item number 10, proposed ordinance providing for 2021 supplemental appropriation 21-008 within the 2021 operations and maintenance budget for the project titled Waterline Improvements in Kramer 19029 in the amount of $200,000 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. That's Mr. Adams, Mr. Otian on behalf of administration. Item number 11, proposed ordinance providing for a 2021 supplemental appropriation 21-009 within the 2021 operations and maintenance budget for a grant in the amount of $900 from the Rachel Ray Foundation through the Best Friends Animals Society and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer same transaction per Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Otian on behalf of administration. Item number 12, proposed ordinance rescinding ordinance number 6466 that approved a lease agreement between the Lafourche Parish School Board, who is the owner or lessor, and the parish of Lafourche, the parish, for leasing the premises located at 6419 Highway 308, Lockport, Louisiana, 70374, for the use as a polling place for Ward 9, Precinct 1 of Lafourche Parish, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relative documents. Mr. Otan on behalf of administration. Item number 13, proposed ordinance approving a lease agreement between the Lafourche Parish School Board, who's the owner, and the parish of Lafourche, which is the parish, for leasing the premises located at 6419 Highway 308, Lockport, Louisiana, 70374, for use as a polling place for Ward 9, Precinct 1 of Lafourche Parish, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relative documents. Mr. Otan on behalf of administration. Item number 14, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 6465 that amended Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2-36 of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances to change the polling location for Ward 9, Precinct 1 from the Lockport Barn to the Career Magnet Center to further establish the effective date of the same, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any of all relative documents. Mr. Otan on behalf of administration. Item number 15, proposed ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2-36 for the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances to change the polling location for Ward 6, Precinct 1A and 1B from the old Chack Bay Elementary School to the Chack Bay Elementary School to further establish the effective date of the same and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relative documents. Mr. Otan on behalf of administration. Item 16, proposed ordinance approving a lease agreement between the Lafourche Parish School Board, the owner, and the parish of Lafourche for leasing the premises located at 450 Highway 20, Thibodaux, Louisiana, 70301, for use as a polling place for Ward 6, Precincts 1A and 1B of Lafourche Parish, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and all relative documents. Once again, Mr. Otan for administration.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. Okay, brings us to item K, resolutions. Number 17, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Lafourche Parish government and the Lafourche Parish School Board to have 2 flashing school zone signs installed at the Chack Bay Elementary School located at 450 Highway 20, Thibodaux, Louisiana, authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Mr. Wendell will move on behalf of the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Grauber. Any discussion by the council?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
after
Mr.
this.
Melvin, you have the floor.
I have a question after this item dealing with a situation that needs attention right now. Vote on, I got a question.
Okay, I'm a little confused. You don't want to discuss this particular
No.
resolution?
No, I got a question after.
Okay. You want to hold it till discussion, or is
No.
it related to this?
I have a situation where the parish is out of barricades and so is the sheriff's office, and people are up and down the street Brandywine, and we need a barricade or maybe a deputy sheriff, if anybody, maybe the deputy in the back, I don't know who can call the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office and actually get a vehicle down there with the lights on to slow people down, because otherwise houses are going to flood. That's an emergency.
Got it.
And we're out of barricades, and the parish tried, and I appreciate that. But if anybody can call a sheriff and get a car down there with some lights on, just slow people down. We're going to avoid some houses flooding. Please.
You got it, Dylan? Thank you. I think he's talking about right now, like there's an issue right now. Appreciate it, Dylan. All right, sorry about that. So let's go back to item 17, resolution. Anyone wants to discuss this any further? If not, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 18, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and GIS Engineering LLC for general engineering and consulting services, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Grauber. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Ms. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 19, resolution requesting the Lafourche Parish Council to review and approve the selection criteria for Lafourche Parish Head Start children for the 2021-2022 school year per Head Start Performance Standard number 1302.4, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration, second by Mr. Grauber. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Ms. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 20, resolution approving the submittal of a grant application from the Louisiana State Land and Water Conservation Fund Division of Outdoor Recreation, Louisiana Office of State Parks, for the construction of ball fields at the Lockport Community Center, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Can someone move on behalf of the administration? So move by Mr. Grove. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Adams and Mr. Lorraine. Item 21, resolution approving application revision number 2 to carry over the unobligated COVID-19 fund balance in the amount of $12,880 to the Head Start 2021 grant year, and authorizing the parish president and council chairman to sign, execute, and administer said application revision and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration, second by Mr. Grauber. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. President.
If I can, in addition to this money, and I want to say a huge thank you to Congressman Graves and the Louisiana Federal Delegation, our Head Start program is going to receive an additional $1.4 million in federal grants that we're going to be using for technology and a whole lot of other upgrades. So a whole lot of exciting things coming to our Head Start program next year.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. President. That said, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 22, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Louisiana Department of Treasury, State of Louisiana, and Lafourche Parish Government for the project titled Waterline Improvements in Kramer, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Someone move on Mr. Adams' behalf. Mr. Grove moves on his behalf. Second by Mr. Grauber. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Does anyone oppose? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 23, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and the City of Thibodaux to reimburse funding for turf fields at Pelham Park, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 24, resolution approving amendment number 3 to the agreement between Everbridge Incorporated and Lafourche Parish Government, extending the contract term for 1 additional year and increasing the contract price to $32,069.69, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Can someone move on my behalf? Mr. Wendell, motion, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion on item 24? All in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 25, resolution accepting the low bid of Frisco Industrial Contractors LLC in the amount of $159,852.86 for the project titled Drainage Improvements along West 55th Street, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson on behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Grauber. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Adams and Mr. Lorraine. Item 26, resolution reappointing 1 member on the Fire Protection District number 8-A board. And can someone move on Mr. Adams' behalf of the administration? Go ahead, Mr. Wendell.
I have 1 vacancy, 1 reappointment, Mr. Chris Cortez.
And Mr. Window nominates Mr. Cortez. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 27, resolution reappointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 8-C Board. Can someone move, Mr. Window, you'll move on behalf of Mr. Adams for
Yes.
administration?
One vacancy, one reappointment, Mr. Anthony LaFaso.
Mr. LaFaso, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 28, resolution reappointing one member to the Sewers District Number 1 Board. Mr. Melvin for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Melvin?
Mr. Kent Lered.
Mr. Lered, can I get a second for Mr. Lered? Second by Mr. Grauber. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 29, resolution reappointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 9 Board. Mr. Grauber for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Grauber? Nominates Mr. Brooke. Can I get a second? Second by Ms. Chesson. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 30, resolution reappointing one member to Lafourche Parish Communications District Board. Mr. Grove for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Grove?
Mr. Stanley Fontenot.
Mr. Fontenot. Can I get a second for Mr. Fontenot? Second by Mr. Grauber. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Item 31, resolution approving the appointment of Brooke Huddleston for the position of Head Start Director for the Lafourche Parish Government and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Ms. Chesson for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. As you guys all know, and I think we've alluded to this in some emails, we had some leadership changes in the Head Start program over the last month or so. So working with the Head Start program in Dallas, who has been a great partner as well as with all the managers and the office staff and the faculty we have in Head Start, we began a search for a new Head Start director a few weeks ago. Ran the ad in conjunction with the Head Start guidelines to make sure that we met all of that. Of myself, who sat in for HR Director, Ms. Savania Anderson, Community Service Director Nicole Ditch, and Ms. Francine Schwetz, who's the chairwoman of our Policy Council for Head Start, because we wanted the Policy Council's Head Start or buy-in as well. We had 3 great applicants that met the education qualifications that we brought in for an interview, and by far Ms. Huddleston stood out. She's a great mind who has worked for St. James and been a member of our parish school board for a number of years, has a master's plus 30 and an additional master's degree in special education, and has been through the superintendent's cohort for superintendents across the state of Louisiana. And we are proud to have her with us tonight. She advanced unanimously through the Policy Council last Monday, so we'd wholeheartedly ask for your support with her nomination tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Grove.
I was just going to ask, when would she be available to start? Like, is there some housekeeping stuff?
Yeah, so once,
Yesterday?
if you guys were to approve it tonight, we still have to send all of her credentials and the process that we followed, the agenda and the minutes from this meeting, the agenda and the minutes from the Policy Council meeting to the Regional Dallas office for Head Start. We're figuring that's going to take a couple days to get back. She still has a couple things to wrap up with the school system in St. James with her notice there. So I would venture to guess the second week of April, she should be with us full-time, if not sooner.
And there was some communication about the school board membership, and also that's all worked out and
Yep.
everything, so
Yeah, we've met with the superintendent and their attorney, and everything's in order and ready to go.
thank you.
And Brooke's here, if you have any questions for her, if you'd like for her to say a few words after the vote or anything.
No, I think that what the discussion was a resignation of the school board, and that's all been addressed. And and I'd certainly welcome and encourage everyone to vote for Brooke. I do know that some big shoes to fill, because that's one of the programs that hasn't had a whole lot of hoopla around it, because it's been pretty much an award-winning program. Like the difficult things we've had around community action since I've been on this council. So anyway, hopefully we can keep that going. But with that said, does anyone else have any discussion? There being none, we're moving this to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously by 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences by Mr. that being Ms. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. I will now go to unanimous agenda item. Right, Ms. Lorraine? You want to go the rest, so you want to wait till after? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because we're just fixing to go into the administration. So we're going to hold off on unanimous till we get to the discussion point. Brooke, just if you don't mind, state your name and address for the record.
Brooke Huddleston, 208 Thibodaux, Louisiana. Excuse me, 208 Canal Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana. I'm looking forward to having a whole lot of hoopla added to Head Start. I'm looking forward to joining the team and the success that they have had. You have a wonderful program in place, and I'm looking forward to just extending that and taking it further. So with my experience on the school board and my experience in St. James with special education and 25 years there, I'm looking forward to that success. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate it. Okay, with that said, we'll go to item L, Parish President, Department Heads, Directors, our Managers' Reports, Presentations, and our Updates. Number 32, Finance Representative to present the monthly financial report as required by the state agreed upon procedures for February 2021. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You guys should have all gotten a copy by email of the monthly financials for the AUPs. And as we typically do at the end of the quarter, we'll do the monthly financials. And I have a couple other things if you want me to do it now or.
Go.
All right. So one, as you guys all know, we are getting our butts whipped right about now with rain. It's slowly moving into the southern end of the parish. Hopefully Thibodaux and the central part will start to see a break somewhere between 8 and 10. But look, we've seen, Eric and OEP just sent me an updated email. We've got anywhere from over 6 inches down to just a couple of inches from the central part of the parish on north. So, you know, Dylan and his guys are busting as hard as they can. Our field offices will remain open throughout the evening for sandbags, pre-filled sandbags, 25 per car like we typically do for a storm, in case anybody's watching live, in case you need them. So just continue to be weather aware. I think we're going to see this through the next couple of days, hopefully not as bad. They were predicting 4 to 9 inches of rain over the course of 3 days. We've gotten that in the matter of about 4 hours. I know you guys' phones have been blowing up like ours have, with constituents wanting you to come see the water and do the best we can. And I will tell you, not something we deal with quite often, but DPW has been out busting their butts all afternoon, so kudos to Dylan and his group. I know a few of you guys, we talk about boards and commissions. We just did a whole lot of appointments. Kelly and our group upstairs emailed out 44 board packets to get updated information from them. I know, Ms. Carlene, you sometimes have some issues with the boards and getting the right names and contacts, so we're working upstairs to do that. So be on the lookout if you represent a board or commission. You should see that in the mail. And then finally, while we're talking about rain, something that may help us, while we mentioned the $1.4 million grant for Head Start, as part of the American Rescue Plan that President Biden had, and although our grandkids are going to have to repay the $1.9 trillion that was that plan, Lafourche Parish stands to get about $18 million directly from that. $9 million of that, $9.2 million, will be paid out within 60 days. So hopefully sometime the end of April, beginning of May, we see that first $9 million check. And then 12 months later, we would get a second $9 million. It's made to help balance the budget for revenue shortfalls. There are some things that we can do when it comes to water and sewer and different things in the community. We're trying to get a definition of water, if that pertains to stormwater, if we can use it for pump enhancements and things like that. So we'll continue to work through. Mitch has been doing a really good job reading through the actual text of the bill. Along with that is about $5.8 million for rental assistance. So we've had a lot of landowners who have reached out because they can't evict tenants right now because of the COVID situation. So if you are a landlord in Lafourche, you do have back rent, please reach out to our community action office and they will put you in contact with the appropriate people to get a part of that $5.8 million. We've had about 200 applicants so far. I don't remember the exact dollar figure off the top of my head, but so we do have people taking advantage of that. So we'll keep you guys updated throughout the night and the next couple of days on the rain, but just be patient. Hopefully it'll let up sooner or later. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do you want to do unanimous now? You want to wait till after discussion? After discussion, okay. So she wants to do it after we finish with him. Discussion, does anyone have any questions for the administration? I'll start on the end. Ms. Chasson, Mr. Grauber, Mr. Melvin, already said your piece. Mr. Grue.
In regards to the boards, Mr. President, we're going to update like the website or, and that contains who's on these boards as well as when they meet, correct?
Yeah, so if you go to our website and you go to the I Want To or the Interact feature, you can look at not only the board and commission openings, but the full board and commission list. And it'll typically give you, if they have an office, what their office address is, if they have a director, or sometimes it's the board chairman, whoever their point of contact is, or the phone number. and then who the members are and how to contact them. So we're working on updating all of that, as well as trying to work through the Code of Ordinances to make sure that everything meshes and matches up. So hopefully, as we launch the new website in the next few weeks, all of that will coalesce at the same time. We'll have a much better procedure for people to find whatever board or commission they're looking for, whether it's ambulance service or sewer or fire or
Right.
whatever.
Thank you. And we need to make sure these boards are meeting too, in turn, I mean, there's a lot of boards that don't meet.
Yeah.
In a lot of instances, it's no sense in having it if.
And it's, again, Mitch has been doing some work the last couple of days with the DA's office, because it's very weird, right? So you guys appoint the members and have the power to put them on and take them off. The actual boards and commissions fall under the executive department, so I'm technically an ex officio, I think, of every board and commission across the parish, which is very weird, not that I want to get involved in all of that. So we're trying to work to clean up some of that, and, where we have to flex some muscle if they're not meeting or not doing what they're supposed to do, we can have some type of authority there.
Also, if you can, or somebody from DPW maybe get with the sheriff's department. We all get a lot of calls when there's a rain event, and, I had people tell me they were calling about the same thing Mr. Melvin just brought up. It's flooding bad, I'm calling the sheriff's department to come block traffic, and they say, call your councilman. Well, I certainly can't call the sheriff's department and get it, but, and I know Jerome and those guys are out there, in the DPW, we're putting out barricades and things like that, but we need a partnership with them. I mean, I certainly don't want anybody's house to flood, but I certainly want them to not stop from going to get that tree that was in a ditch on West Camellia out the ditch. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely, and look, it's easy to point fingers and all, but we just definitely need some help when it comes to that, whether they can get some trustees to help us or something that, and until we can get there with a barricade to put a car.
Mr. Melvin, I'll go back to you.
Yeah,
Go
real
ahead.
quick, Dylan, I know that for years, even since I first started, there's been an issue with the water rerouting of the thoroughbred pump, which sometimes it's recycling the same water, just as a leak. Is that in the levee or pipe?
You know the answer to that, Mr. Dillon? You got the floor.
So we did look into this probably middle of last year. That resident, you had sent me his contact info. We looked at him. There is an issue with that. We are trying to get funding for it. We have submitted to state capital outlay, waiting to hear back on that. Haven't heard anything. There is an engineer involved. He has done some preliminary work. We do know the issue. I don't think it's cycling a whole bunch of water. Like as far as a pump standpoint, the biggest issue we have is a levee failure down the road from continued seepage. That's the concern there. There's not a whole bunch of water that's actually pouring back through it, but
Are we putting dirt, or what are we doing? What are we doing to stave off a levee failure?
so we don't believe it's in the state now where it would fail anytime soon.
Okay.
There is some seepage, and long term it will, but there's no issue there at this point.
Okay, real quick. There's a gate behind the outfall, way behind the X bypass, which had some issues today. It was during my last administration as well, just dealing with this gate, and I don't know if the gate's still there, if it's not there, and some of the residents feel like it might be blocking Lily's.
The gate behind where? I'm sorry?
Behind X bypass, there's a gate along a right-of-way that goes to the 40 behind the neighborhood. There is a gate, and I've seen the gate. I don't know if it's still there, and I'm not saying I have an issue with a gate on somebody's private property with an outfall so that nobody comes in on their property, from the 40, but if it's there and it's not being maintained, to let Lily's out, or for them to take care of it. If they're going to block Lily's, they should tend to. I'm just kind of concerned about that as far as I know we have a right-of-way back there. I just don't know. Just make a mental note of that. Now, I have a few other things I'll just email you about with some catch basins.
Yes, sir. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Quick question, Dylan, is the Lafourche levee district involved with the water seepage on this levee area y'all talking about?
They are not. That is not their levee. That is one of our levees. So it's just a small ring levee around Thoroughbred and Supercharged Drive. So.
Gotcha. Mr. Wendell?
I'll be real brief. I know Department of Public Works is under a lot of pressure right now. I just wanted to give a shout out to them. Last week, I was down a dead-end road, and then I journeyed out on a dirt road and ran into Department of Public Works Director at about between 6 and 7 at night, as well as a whole crew from the Raceland Barn taking care of some issues that I wasn't there to check on. I was looking at some other things, but these guys have been out and about till all hours of the night taking care of some issues that we have as they arise, so I just wanted to thank them publicly for that.
Thank you, Mr. Wendell. Mr. Jones?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been monitoring the pump since 12 noon today, and all our pumps are working pretty good. With the Melvin pump station, the Layton, the West Camellia pump station is overwhelmed right now with West Camellia, but we got so much rainfall in Thibodaux right now. And the water came from Assumption, got down to Thibodaux first, so that should help out Thibodaux a little bit when the welcome pump is on, because that's a private-owned pump. I just want to kind of explain to people on Waverly Road and on West Camellia that the water came from Assumption first, so that rain was up there earlier. And our pumps are keeping up, and our barns are doing superhero jobs, trying to keep up. So I just asked them to bear with the employees and these pumps, and when I leave here, I'll be back at the pump station at Layton, Melvin. It's kind of dark and dangerous, but I'm going to go. So, and one more question, the sewage update on Marydale. Mr. Lafourche, you got something on that for me?
Dylan, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. They are, the contractor is currently coating the tank. The tanks were leaking. Upon installing them, we did not sign substantial completion because they were leaking. They are being recoated now. They are very close to finishing that. As soon as they finish that, we will go through a spark test to make sure that the coating's adequate. And at that point, we will substantially complete the project and accept it. There was one more issue with a check valve about 2 weeks ago, and it has since been resolved.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, just driving to this council meeting, there was 6 streets between here and Valentine underwater, and as well as LA 1 in Lockport Heights. So you're right. And what's unfortunate is some of these barns get really jammed up with the fact that people don't like water on the road or water in their yards, when in reality we have a few people that have water going in their houses. And it's unfortunate people don't realize that. They really jam up the handful of, when really the pump stations is the highest priority in the levees. And then secondarily down the street. So, but anyway.
And if I can, Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman,
Mr. President.
I'm going to take 1 second. Dylan does a lot better job at explaining this than I do, but we got a lot of calls today about, why we didn't pump down the reservoirs, or why didn't the pumps kick on sooner? The Northwoods Levee District spent a tremendous amount of money modeling all of these outfall canals and getting to specific target elevations that allow for levee stability, right? Because you want to keep the level on the inside of the system at a certain point so the water pressure from the outside doesn't topple the levee over and cause a much more catastrophic effect. So we hold that. We had this issue several months ago where we attended the council meeting in the town of Lockport because we had to explain this to people because they don't quite understand it, that a lot of these things are on float systems. And the water has to get to the pump before it'll kick on. And just because you see the water level higher doesn't mean that we didn't do what we could to get it down, knowing that something like this was coming. And I know I saw Mr. Thibodaux in the back, and I'm sorry I left before we could say this. We had an issue where we had a contractor that was working for the levee district leave a dam built in the Barrow Canal over the weekend, and when we got a massive rain event, it caused some issues, right? One pumper knew what he was doing, and the 2 pumpers were talking. Nobody knew that this dam was built in the middle of the outfall canal, and it caused Mr. Thibodaux' pasture to flood and caused some issues for him. So we work through things like that while we in the levee district talk quite often, sometimes stuff like that gets missed, and it's not our fault, it's not their fault. They have engineers and contractors who are working on that sort of thing. So again, kudos, I know everybody said it, but kudos to Dylan and the guys in the field, because they're the ones busting their butt right now while we're in here dry. And I know, we'll all be out there tonight as this thing rolls in the next couple of days, but those guys really deserve a lot of credit today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, he did flash flood warning. Okay. While we're in the discussion, Ms. Charlene asks that I read this letter, which is basically Lafourche Council on Aging Commodity Distribution in Thibodaux, Wednesday, March 24th, has been canceled and rescheduled for Monday, March 29th. So move from this Wednesday to Monday of next week. Commodity distribution for Raceland on Thursday, March 25th, has been canceled and rescheduled for Tuesday, March 30th. So move from this Thursday to next Tuesday. And commodity distribution for Cutoff has been changed and will be on Wednesday, March 31st, has not been changed and will be on Wednesday, March 31st as scheduled. Any questions? You can call the Council on Aging office at 985-532-0457. Good, Ms. Charlene? Thank you very much. Okay, with that said, now I would like to move to unanimous agenda items. Everyone should have gotten a packet. The first one is item A, resolution, and there's a couple of ways to do it, Ms. Carlene, you're right. And so what I'd like to do is First off, call for unanimous agenda item. Number one, resolution declaring a vacancy for constable, second justice of the peace court, and calling special election to fill a vacancy of constable, second justice of the peace court due to the untimely death of Mr. Dwayne LaBeouf. Does anyone object to calling this unanimous agenda? I can pull it to a vote. Is everyone in favor? Please raise your hand if you're in favor of calling this agenda special. Anyone against? Speak now. Okay, so we'll move to this resolution. As far as discussion, Ms. Carleen touched base with the Secretary of State regarding Mr. LaBeouf's passing, and we were told we had 20 days to call a special election. So that's the reason for this. Does anyone have any questions on this whatsoever? Go ahead, Mr. Grove.
When we call an election like this, and we've had people come up and talk about, man, it's be the only thing on the ballot, we need to do a better job. The qualifying dates of the 14th through the 16th
July.
of July. Not a really long time. So it just when it follows their election that date? Okay.
Secretary of State dictates it, yes, sir.
Okay. Right. But I mean, there is stuff scheduled already, and it's not.
Yeah, so that'll be the qualifying for everybody who's running for anything else on the October ballot, which there should be some other stuff anyway.
All right.
Yeah, that's correct. Any other discussion? There being none, we'll move this to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get a I may not have gotten a motion. Can someone move? So Mr. Grove moves on my behalf. Mr. Grauber seconds that motion. Once again, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams. Good, Ms. Carleen? Yes, sir. And on item 2, I'm going to pull the interim after consultation with several people, council members, et cetera. So I'm going to reject the unanimous agenda item on that one. Everybody good on that? Clear? Yeah. So, Mr. Grauber, on item 2, the appointment of the interim, I'm going to pull that resolution. We're not gonna move forward. You're in agreement with that, right? Good. Gotcha. So anyway, I'm going to pull that one. We good, Ms. Carleen, on everything?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else has anything else tonight? Because if not, I'm going to entertain a motion for adjournment. Got so moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? On motion by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Jones, and with no further business, the Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting on March 23rd, 2021, adjourned at, that's wrong, 1800 hours, 6 p.m. Ms. Carleen, by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences. Those absences being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Adams.
Okay, so what we're going to do about that?
So